I read this article, and honestly, I feel like this is, if it's what I recall, I feel like we're using words in a very clickbaity fashion, but I'll explain what I mean. Because it's described as Wuchang Fallen Feathers fans celebrate owning the disc after controversial update censors the game. And when I think censorship in the context of video games, I think of like, you know, you had a character that was talented and then you cover up the talent. You know, I feel like you have maybe something in your game that just swings low Sweet Chariots with quality, and then you pin up the quality. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Yeah, you get what I'm saying? I'm picking up what I'm stepping in. You know what I'm saying? Peter has a beard. Also, thank you for the sub over on Twitch. Thank you, my friend. But this apparently is not that at all. It's been called a lot of things. Souls, slop, gooner bait, a surprisingly good game. You can now add censored, quote unquote, to the list after the recent 1.5 update make controversial changes to the game, seemingly to quell backlash from some fans in China. A few diehard fans are now relieved they bought the game on disc, knowing they can always access the original version of the action game that released last month. What did they do? Did they cover everybody up in burlap? What happened? Well, the newest patch arrived earlier this week and made a bunch of changes, most of which seemed innocuous enough. Some were enthusiastically welcomed, like a sped up healing animation. It's a good thing to have. The ability to cancel out of recovery animation by dodging. That's a good thing to have. Improved iframes when recovering from getting knocked down. That's also cool. Tightening up the combat and stuff like that. I love that. Other changes were more ominous than they first appeared, though. Quote, added dialogues for some NPC to complete some plots. Okay. Not sure what that means. We will further optimize the exhaustion animations in the future to improve the plot performance. Okay. Not sure what that means. What was developer Lin Z talking about? Well, it soon became clear, as shared on social media by Souls aficionado and early advocate for Wuchang, Lance McDonald. Quote, what they mean is they made it so you can no longer kill any historically significant bosses or NPCs. They changed it so any historically significant bosses or NPCs can't be killed. Now they just get exhausted and like relax after the fight and talk to you. So I'm guessing this is like in Starfield when you try to kill like a quest giver and they just drop to all fours and like, I need a minute. And you're like, I just shot you with a bazooka in the face. I'm like, I just need a second. And then after a few minutes, they stand up and talk to you. And it's like, John didn't like that. I'm guessing that's what they're doing here. Historical figures that previously died within the fictional game, like Liu Wenxu and Liu Chengin. I'm so sorry. I'm from Colorado. What did you expect? My pronunciation is going to be bad. And Emperor Chongzhen are now live on. They can't be killed. Let's see. Daniel said, yep, the game isn't even officially released in China. It doesn't have a publishing license. Too much of its content goes against what's allowed to be depicted in games in China anyway. This is really weird that the devs would just falter like this to vocal minorities. Lance replied, people got mad you can kill the late stage Ming Dynasty Dragon Emperor in game, but he was literally dead by this point in history and you kill a horrific zombie version of him to stop his resurrection. Anyone offended by that is wild, and having him survive now ruins the plot. It is wild to like retcon the plot of your game in a patch. Like, imagine at the end of Last of Us Part 2, if they patched it and they're like, oh no, now Ellie drowns the shit out of Abby. They're like, yeah, just we updated it, made it a little better. Imagine if they did that. It'd be ridiculous. Yeah, W's in chat. But that's basically what they're doing here, is they're changing it. So previously a boss that you killed as like the high point climax of the story now just gets exhausted and like talks to you after the fight. That's pretty stupid. That's pretty dumb. Okay. It still doesn't sound like, again, I feel like if you put this picture on screen and you say it's censored, I think people will assume something else is happening, but I get what they mean. Yeah, the CCP patch. It feels like they are, I don't know if they're trying to get a publishing license in China and they're trying to to tone it down so that they can get that, because in China you can't depict their historical figures that way, I guess. But yeah, this is crazy. McDonald continued, like actual censorship due to pressure from Chinese players who are upset about being able to kill historically significant characters from the end of the Ming Dynasty. Crazy to see it. Players are reporting that the quote-unquote pray gesture has been removed that you previously learned from the Portuguese Christian character in the game. So they removed like the ability to pray as a gesture. I mean, like, talk about snowflakes, man. Like, what the hell are we doing? Like, this is crazy. This is crazy. A series of Ming soldiers in chapter 4 have also been changed to not fight the player, making a previously challenging section now a breeze because they literally don't fight you. What are we doing? What are we doing? Like, this is crazy, dude. They're literally like redoing entire chunks of the game, seemingly to just appease a vocal minority. But I guess maybe the argument is just that their hope is to get the publishing license in China, and that represents another like 2 million copies, maybe more. And so they're like, we just have to release in China, so let's just get it fixed up. And this is what their lawyers are telling them to do. And so they're trying to do that so they can release in China, and they're hoping that then they can make a lot more money. Maybe that's pretty much all it is. Combined with some more general nerfs to enemy armor and various boss fights, players have been revolting against patch 1.5 on Steam and Reddit, where some have accused the Wuchang subreddit mods of deleting complaints. Quote, after 80 hours on Steam, I pulled the trigger for console, one fan wrote. Long live Wuchang 1.0. Some players are currently trying to roll back updates on Steam by editing files. Not everyone's raging against the latest update as performance continues slowly but surely to improve on PC. It was pretty rough at first. But that does mean that Wuchang's Steam review rating is finally recovering. Not quite. Complaints of frame rate crashes have been replaced by review bombing over alleged censorship. For its part, Lindsay hasn't said why it changed Wuchang's story. Update 1.5 went live on PS5 and Xbox Series X and S earlier today when this was written. It looks like it was posted yesterday. It is kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy to literally change the plot of your game in a patch. That's kind of ridiculous. And then to like literally also updating it, removing entire sections of the game where now enemies don't attack you. So it goes from being incredibly difficult to incredibly easy. And it's like, oh, okay. Well, it's kind of lame, kind of sucks. But I think it literally is being done just because they're trying to get access to release in China, and that represents enough cash that it's worth redoing all of this. So they're like, just go along with it. Go along with it. Who cares? Whatever. It's wild, dude. It's wild. I mean, again, I still think that the word censorship, at least in the title, makes me think of something else. But I do agree, after reading it, it does sound like it is being censored specifically to try and appeal to the Chinese regulators who would allow them to sell the game in China. So it would technically fit the definition. Maybe I'm the problem. Maybe I just hear censorship and I'm like, so boobs? But that's not what it is. Got to get my head out of the gutter. I'm the problem. But this is wild. Again, like literally think of any other game where they change this and like, yeah, so the big boss fight, yeah, he lives now. Sorry, not sorry. Be ridiculous. Everybody be like, what the hell are you doing? And it would be fair to bring that up. Let me see Wuchang's Steam page. It's sitting at mixed. Censorship changed story bits that don't make any sense to comfort fragile Chinese nationalism. Wouldn't have bought the game if I knew it would be censored. Sadly, 1.5 patch adds censorship and makes changes to NPC dialogues, NPC deaths, quest outcomes, and gameplay mechanics such as the madness system. It completely affects the story's message and endings. There is no transparency whatsoever. The details are let out and stay hidden behind general patch description, so you don't expect these changes at all. I'm 57 hours in, enjoying the game so far. One of the greatest level designs since the original Dark Souls. Captivating story. Gameplay is fantastic with some game performance improvement. I would give it a solid 8 or 9 out of 10. Still in chapter 3, did not want to give it a score yet. Then patch 1.5 showed up. Game performance improvements are welcome, but this must be the first time I've heard of story plot change post-release. As far as I'm aware, plot change made the story completely different and even makes some of the characters' motivations pointless. I don't know what kind of pressure Lindsay got to go as far as changing the game's plot. I've read that it was criticized by some gamers for not being historically accurate, but the story is fiction, is it not? Yeah. It's why, like, we were just talking about this on Wednesday. The old DLC for Assassin's Creed 3, which is pretty wild at this point. I mean, honestly, it's pretty ridiculous at this point. But it was literally historical fiction in an alternative timeline where George Washington went mad with power and became King Washington, and the DLC is literally called The Tyranny of King Washington. Like, can you imagine if they tried to do this with like a Chinese emperor or something, and they're like, yeah, so Mao, he's now got superpowers and he's a zombie and you have to fight him throughout the game, and then he's the final boss fight. Like, they would lose their minds. They'd lose their minds. Whereas in America, we're like, oh, that's freaking cool as hell. I would have loved if George Washington would have been king, would have gotten rid of all these communists. It's just very different, very different. It's too bad. The DLC was like kind of ridiculous. I didn't get to play it till years after the fact because it was so broken. It was like so broken at launch. But it had like all sorts of magical effects in it too. And then it had like a final boss fight on top of a gigantic pyramid that George Washington was building in Washington, or in Philadelphia, I think it was. Like, you can kind of see it here. Like, literally they were building a gigantic pyramid. It's like pretty unhinged as far as like DLC go, but it's back in the day when Assassin's Creed would just do wild stuff and you'd be like, what are we doing, man? What are we doing? But anyway, yeah, they shouldn't censor it. That's freaking stupid as hell, and I don't blame people for being upset about it. I can't think of a time where another game has literally cut and changed the story and like final boss fight outcomes post-launch. Like, that's pretty insane.